Back again with two new basketball programs. I've been on a little bit of a buying spree lately, so there's plenty to be done. But I only do these when I have the time. So we have two of them today. If you occasionally see a flop, and I'll explain what the flop would mean here, I'll show you why that is. I use an OtterBox to protect the iPad that I filled these with, because frankly, I'm kind of a klutz and can tend to drop these things a lot, so I always buy an OtterBox. But I've had this for a while, and the substance, which I'm drawing a complete blank on what the hell it's called, silicone, has expanded and went around the iPad, and it's kind of droopy, to lack of a better extent. So if you occasionally see this, that's why it's expanded and doesn't want to stick anymore. So it's I've been looking for an older OtterBox to perhaps buy to have a new one around it, since the pad itself is still working great. But I just wanted to let you know, that's, if you ever see that, that's what has happened. Well, this is an Atlanta Hawks program. They're playing, of course, my favorite team, the Cleveland Cavaliers, and this is from February 1st, 1983. So this was, of course, at the legendary, if you're a pro wrestling fan, Omni in Atlanta. And right inside, there's a Superstation TBS advertising the Hawks. This was in the time when all the Hawks games are on TBS. And there's that flop. So let's just take this off here and see if that helps. Won't have to worry about that anymore. Superstation TBS, cable's most popular network, still here today. So we'll go through here. The Hawks, some records will stand forever. Wilt Chamberlain, etc. So it kind of talks about probably the 100 points. How to choose the right printer. For back then, it was the pre-computer days. It was probably aimed at businesses. Still waters run deep and tall. I guess this is previewing the next team in, which is the Golden State Warriors, with first-round pick Joe Barry Carroll of Purdue, who gets a bad rap. He didn't have an awful career, but compared to what Golden State gave up to get him, where they gave up Robert Parrish, who was an okay player for Golden State, but not the great player he would become, and the third overall pick, which Boston used for Kevin McHale. Under those circumstances, yeah, Golden State kind of got took, but it wasn't like Carroll was a terrible player. There's Joe Theismann shilling Canon cameras. Here comes Caldwell Jones, who was a better ABA player than NBA. NBA was a serviceable center, but certainly not a spectacular one. Mark McNamara is a real charmer of snakes. McNamara was the #1 pick of Philadelphia in this year, and was a NBA journeyman, but apparently he was a snake collector. Atari Real Sports. It's hard to believe that this stuff looked great when this game was, what did I say, 1983? So I was 14 years old back then, and it's hard to believe this stuff was revolutionary. Now it makes you feel like you look at it and you think you need glasses. There's some more Mark McNamara snake charms, big lighters, how the NBA teams got their nicknames. Dr. J going for a rebound against apparently some guy that was his neighbor. There's an advertisement for the NBA trade newspaper of the time. Subscribe to NBA Today, which I got actually for 1 year. And those days where you really did need to have that information. And then there's the owner of the Hawks at the time, Hawks, Braves, future World Championship Wrestling, Ted Turner. It must have been a printing problem here, because I'm feeling this right here, and it's almost like the page is raised. It's not a wrinkle. It's like it's raised. So it could have been a problem. Here's an ad for those Atlanta Braves owned by Ted Turner. Thanks a million. So this is 1983. The previous year, Atlanta had won the division title. Now this is you can see like a print roll crease on that page, but it wasn't that on the other. And there's the old Chief Nakahoma Brave logo, which I'm sorry, I don't mean to be insensitive, but I do have a soft spot for those logos when I was a kid from the 70s. I understand why we've moved on, everything progresses, and I don't have a problem with that part, but I do kind of miss the old 70s logo for the Braves. This is the active statistical leaders going into the season. Head coach Kevin Lockery, who won an ABA title with the New York Nets at the time, and coached for some NBA teams, but never with the same success. There's the Hawks on their radio affiliate, WLTA 100, Gentle on My Mind. Stan Kasten, who's still around sports today, with the Washington Nationals, I think the last time I heard. Then we move to the American Express card. Assistant coach Fred Carter, the Mad Dog, remember him from his days at the Philadelphia 76ers. Stroh's Light and Winston cigarettes, it wouldn't be whatever. There's a sports talk show. Listen to Joe Walker. Apparently they've taken this picture of Joe when he was either asleep or somebody was giving him a needle and he was wincing. Man, if I put that picture, I don't think I'd have picked that picture to put of me in a program. Here's Mike Glenn, he was a great outside shooter and did some Hawks radio. I seem to remember him on WTBS doing games sometimes. There's the TBS schedule for the Hawks. So they showed half the games, and apparently a large chunk of them at home, plus 10 NCAA telecasts, which was highlighted by the Ralph Sampson, Patrick Ewing showdown. Don't miss Cannon Camera night with the Hawks. Chance to meet your favorite players. Can you imagine doing that today? People would be telling them no way in hell. And this is the Atlanta Hawks versus the Cavaliers, which is the game of the preview. The ironic thing with the preview, it's written by Bill Needle, who was the Hawks public relations director, and Bill Needle was involved with the Cavaliers for years. But I can't remember if it was before this or after this, or perhaps this was the in-between time when Ted Stepien had sold the team and was getting ready to turn it back over, because as you can see, they're using the Cavalier logo, which by the next season they would not be using. So that could be what it is. He was probably working in Atlanta to get away from Ted Stepien and was doing out of time. And this discusses some of the Cavaliers, which includes the acquisition of World Be Free from the Warriors in December. And there is World Be Free, but he's pictured with the Golden State Warriors. And then there's Free with the classic Cavalier logo, right alongside the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets schedule. I'm already looking. This is a bigger book than normal. I have another book here, but I don't think we're going to get to that today for this video. The Renault Alliance. And I've often talked about how these 70s and 80s cars, when you go through these, they're just so aesthetically terrible. This looks literally like a box on wheels. And then there's the scorecard for tonight's game for Atlanta. Other than Dominique Wilkins and Dan Roundfield, who was a very good player for a while, Tom McMillan, former Maryland Terrapin, not a kind of a nondescript team. Johnny Davis would be a future Cavalier, as would Eddie Johnson. It looks like a lot of these Hawks would spend a little time in Cleveland. And then on this team, I see a lot of names of guys that I know but you know from different teams. There's John Bagley, the #1 pick. He would be in Cleveland for a while. James Edwards, who would eventually be part of the Bad Boy Pistons. World Be Free. Phil Hubbard, who would be along with the Cavalier. Jeff Houston, who held the Cavalier record for assists in the game for a long time. Larry Keenan, who was a great ABA player with the Nets and the Spurs, but he was kind of near the end of the line. Same thing for Sam Lacey, who was a #1 pick for the Kings and was a stalwart of theirs in the 1970s. Robinson was a very good scorer, but he was kind of like the front court version of World B. Free. He was on a lot of teams putting up nice numbers. James Silas, who was a really good player for the San Antonio Spurs in the ABA before wrecking his knee. Richard Washington, #1 pick of the Kings, and Bobby Wilkerson, who was a #1 pick of, drawing a blank on who he was a #1 pick of. Sorry about that. But both were good college players in their time. Bobby Wilkerson, #1 pick. I'm thinking the Bulls, but maybe I'm wrong. Talent ties on the Cavalier bench. This is Don Delaney, and Tom Nasalki, this is the very end of the Ted Stepien years. Don Delaney, who was the GM, hired from a local community college by Ted Stepien. Drop in for victory at the Hawks Pro Shop, Rich's All Pro Shop. Gene Little's longtime NBA assistant. Atlanta's Classic Cars. This is a pretty cool program. There's a lot of local content in this, where a lot of times these the NBA programs at the time, as we've shown, has a template, which they only have a couple little pages in the middle. This one here has a lot more of accent on the local than the national, so I like that. This is some famous Hawks trades through the years. And there's Dan Ranfield, former best years were with the Hawks and with the Indiana Pacers. Tree Rollins, who was from Clemson. Most of his career was a Hawk, although he had a little time in Cleveland. Here's the Hawks broadcasters. John Sterling, who is still calling games to this day with the Yankees. And the late Skip Carey, who my buddy Bob does a hilarious Skip Carey impersonation. Rory Sparrow, a vagabond point guard for the Hawks. And then there's the Hawks home schedule. And this is nice. For office use only. And then here's the local radio. WCNN. Does that logo look familiar? NBA Arenas, Photographer of the Night. There's some Atlanta Hawks novelties. We always like to look at these. I'll try to be quick because we're running out of time. The mini basketball, $1.50. Pennants for teams, $2. Rings. I remember when those were big, the adjustable rings. Windbreakers, golf shirts, sweatshirts. Skip Carey cocktail hour t-shirts. Oh boy, Bob would have a fun day with that. NBA birthdays for your calendar. What NBA player would be on my birthday? Richard Washington. Wow. Way to go for the big time. And this is the, everybody's talking about the new kid in town, the Hawks' #1 draft pick, Dominique Wilkins. Dominique Wilkins could have been a Cavalier. The NBA's Over the Hill game. I'm sure Kareem loved being thought of as that. There's the Converse Pro Star, which I had a pair that was close to that. And there's some more Over the Hill gang artist Gilmore. Dan Issel. This is NBA travel. John McEnroe. Huckstering even back then with I don't have to shave with a 20-cent Bic, but I do. NBA Rookie of the Year crossword puzzle. Before or after the game, come to Denny's. Well, I guess that's the moon over Miami, over the top of the Coliseum in question. And here's some of those Hawks we talked about earlier. Tom McMillan, formerly of Maryland. Another WCNN ad. What else do we have here? More to life than just basketball. Pro sports aren't always glory-filled. Okay, as you can see, we did not make it to our next one, so I'll do another video here shortly. Maybe I'll put them both up today. So that's a I enjoyed that. Very fun video. The Hawks hosting the Cleveland Cavaliers, 1983. If you like this, hit the subscribe button. I'd appreciate it. I know the camera works shaky, but hopefully the commentary is at least fun and brings back some memories. So don't forget to check out my blog, if you wish, at thoughtsofrs.blogspot.com for more sports memories. And we'll see you next time.